After I sketched the leaves, I took a stick and I dipped it in masking fluid, and then I tapped that stick on top of my paper, and what it did was release all these little drops on it, and that's my snow. That's how I blocked that out. So right now I'm going to use the colors that I've listed there for you to look at, and I'm going to begin to build up the highlights and the lights. Only wet the leaves, and I've got enough water in there where you can see when I put a few drops of paint, it is spreading all by itself. So I'm using the Brilliant Orange in here, a little bit of Alizarin Crimson and Pyro Red, and I'm just going to work my way around the leaf, but the top leaf has got a little bit of a darker tone to it than the bottom one, and we're going to keep it that way as we paint on. The paper at this point is starting to dry, and when I put on paint, it's not spreading as fast, which is nice. It's perfect. One of the things with watercolors is that you want to learn how to work with how wet your paper is, how thick your paint is, and what stage of the painting you're in. Right now, I am simply just adding another layer of paint, glazing, you could say that. I just didn't let it dry in between. And I'm adding in some of those vibrant colors, and I'm building the undertones. This orange is going to continue to pop out through the painting. The yellows are as well. And because I know how dry my paint is and how wet the paper is, I know what I'm doing as far as adding these little dots in, and they're not spreading everywhere. So that's a fun thing to practice. Maybe I can come up with a lesson for us to practice that on. I got a lot of paint time out of this first layer. This was pretty amazing. And the way that I did that was by wetting that leaf, not just once, but 2 times. I'll wet the leaves and then I'll let it dry a little bit, then I'll wet it again, and it gives me a lot more paint time for me to work with. So I finished off just these raw details that I have for the top leaf, and then I dotted in some orange. And then I also sprayed some salt in there too. I just dropped a few crystals. Right now I'm using a paper towel, and you can see that I twisted that up to a very fine point, and I'm using that to lift out a few dots. This leaf was getting pretty dry, and it allowed me to go ahead and add in a few of the leaf veins just so I can see where those are at. There's not a lot of detail that's needed on the bottom leaf. Just remember that the bottom leaf to the right is where I'm going to add in some shadow. And I used a little bit of neutral at the tips because those are pretty dark. Tiny bit of Gamboge yellow mixed with a little bit of neutral. And that gives me a nice color that I can add in for that shadow. So that way you can see the shape and the curl of the leaf. For the snow, paint everything except for the leaves and get that wet, and then all we're going to do is drop in a little bit of cerulean blue. Here's a little bit of permanent violet, a little bit of horizon blue. There's a lot of color that's in snow. It's just a matter of how do you represent that. Viriditur is another great color that you can use to add in for snow. So I'm just going to add in color, and I'm looking at where the shadows are, especially between the two leaves and at the bottom of the yellow. And I'm just going to continue to add that in and let it dry. Use a rubber tip cement eraser and pull off all of the masking fluid. One of the ways that I can know whether it's done is I take my hand, which is very clean, very dry. I don't have any moisture on my hand. And I'm gently going over the picture to see if I feel anything else. Then I use that eraser again to just go over it and remove the rest until it's done. Now, once you've got your dots free and you see all these white dots, you don't want to leave them that way. Snow has shadows in it, so you're going to do the same thing in these dots. And one way you can do that is simply by just take a little bit of water after your painting has dried for like an hour, and then take your brush and just go over that leaf gently and dab in tiny bits of the blue we use, the Vereditor, a little bit of permanent violet, you could do that, but you're just going to add in a little tiny bit of color in that snow. It looks more natural. And then as this painting is continuing to finish up drying with that snow, I'm going down to the bottom and I'm looking at my picture, I'm looking at my photo reference, and I'm just saying, is there anything else I need? And I needed a little bit of shadow in that bottom right leaf because I need people to see the curl. So I'm just going to sketch that in real quick. I'm not fussing over a ton of details at this point. I'm basically enjoying adding in color. I love colors, I love glazing, so that's something you'll see out of mine. So this is my finished work. I would love to see yours. Be sure to post it on Facebook or Instagram and tag my name in it so that way I can give you some feedback and tell you how an incredible job you did as well, which I know you did. So thanks, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.